Hi, I'm Femi OK, and you're in the stream. Today, it's been a year since the war in Gaza, but for many of its children, the nightmare still isn't over and their mental health is suffering. Thank you so much for the many stories you're already sharing with us about Gaza today. They've been going to our digital team and Malika Bilal, our digital producer. But before we get the show underway, it's really important to take a look at some of the stats from inside Gaza about Gaza children. And Malika has those.
You're right. Thanks, Femi. People have been sharing stories about what happened in Gaza 1 year ago. But first, as Femi mentioned, we have some UN stats to give us an understanding of the impact of the war. You can see the numbers on this screen here. Well, that first number is 551 children who were killed in the conflict. More than 3,400 were injured. More than 1,500 kids were orphaned, and nearly 300,000 children in the Gaza Strip need psychological and social support. Now, for those of you who are watching us from Gaza, we want you to send us your stories with hashtag AJStream, and we'll be sure to share as many as we can.
My name is Khaled Sabawi. I am from Palestine, and I am in the stream.
The rebuilding of infrastructure has been slow in Gaza, the rebuilding of lives perhaps even slower, and some of the youngest Gazans are still paying the biggest price.
احنا الابواب كلها مفتوحه والحيطان مفتوحه، الجيران انا حاسه حالي يعني زي كني عايشه في الشارع. حتى الآن مشى الحرب سنة ولحتى الآن ما بتجيش كتير، الكهرباء بتجيش كتير يعني. احنا مضطرين نعيش هنا عشان فيش لنا ملجأ غيري. الكوابيس كانت تجيني كل يوم، أما قبل الحرب ما كانش يجيني حاجة الحمد لله.
Today we want to take a look at the mental and emotional toll the war has taken on Gaza's youngest and what needs to be done to help them get better. Joining us to talk about this and how to do it, Pernilla Ironside is UNICEF's Chief of the Gaza Field Office. She's leading the organisation's emergency response across the Gaza Strip. Dr. Yasser Abu Jamah is a psychiatrist and executive director of the Gaza Community Mental Health Programme. He treats children and adults. Awa Mana is communications director and officer for Oxfam in Gaza. And Farah Baker is a Gazan teen who live tweeted living through last year's war. So it's good to have you here, everybody. Awa, as you were watching that little girl tell her story, your face said everything. If you could convey to the rest of the world what's happened to the youngsters in Gaza, how would you do that? What's happened to these children?
Maybe my face went sad because it's true that it's one year has passed, but you can see the impact of the war in all aspects of life, especially on the faces of children and young generation of Gaza. Like because of my work, I go a lot to the field and I speak a lot to the people, and I have spoken a lot to children in the last few days. And what makes me emotional about speaking to children in Gaza is that they have seen a lot of suffering and they have lost a lot of moments in their lives where they should have been enjoying their life, but unfortunately it's the contrary. They have seen only wars, destruction. They have heard bombing, and the sounds of bombing are still, I think, until now, they are hearing it in their ears. So I feel sad about the days that are lost in the lives of these children, and I really hope that their future will be better.
Have a look here on my laptop here. There's a screen grab here. It says, I'm Farah Baker, Gazan girl, 16 years old. Since I was born, I have survived 3 wars, and I think this is enough. Hashtag save Gaza. That was from about a year ago. Farah, you are so internet famous right now. Welcome. It's great to have you here. If you remember back that last year and surviving that last year, Are there things that happen to you now that you know, oh, I only do that because of the war, the last war? Farah?
I actually still remember all the memories of the war. I still remember the sound of the bombs, the light of the flares, the sound of drones. I feel like if the war was yesterday, and I hope I won't live through the fourth war.
Still remembering the sound. That's exactly what other people are telling us who are from Gaza. This is Amel, and she tweeted us something that is a lot longer than 140 characters, so you can see it here. She had a lot to say, and she called the children in Gaza war experts. She says, show me one normal child who knows the difference between an Apache and an F-16 like Gaza kids do. Better yet, show me one normal child who's lived through 3 wars and is still normal. Our kids need rehabilitation. So Dr. Yasser, you read things like this, and of course you live there and you are talking to kids. What are some of the symptoms that come out of living through 3 wars?
Well, actually, there are many issues to be talked or to talk about here. First of all, this is the first. It was the third war in less than 6 years or 6 years period, and children have experienced or have gone through very difficult, multiple traumatizing experiences during the 3 wars. Most of the children arrive at our community, 3 community mental health centers, having symptoms of night terrors, nightmares. They have extreme fears. They have sometimes avoidance to some of the places they live, they go about, and there is a problem with violence among children. But the main 2 things are the nightmares and violence, actually.
Dr.
Of course,
Dr.
there are
Yasser,
various
what do you
fears.
do with those? What do you do with those children?
Well, unfortunately, there is something very important to keep in mind, that it's not like we are on a post.
I've lost Dr. Yasser just for a little bit. Let me just pick up and move on to a story that I know that you will be very familiar with. Have a look here on my laptop. This comes from The Independent. It's an old headline. Israel-Gaza conflict. 4 boys killed while playing football on beach after Israeli warships open fire. This is a story, Pernilla, that you know very well, and actually the surviving youngsters are part of your case work in Gaza right now. Can you tell us how the surviving boys are doing?
I can. In fact, the day after that incident, I visited the surviving boys and their families in the hospital here at El Shifa, just around the corner from our office. And, you know, even at that immediate stage, the shock of those children was clearly apparent. And these are extraordinarily severe cases of trauma. And indeed, a year after, one of the boys remains in really in a dysfunctional state. He has not been able to return to school. He's extraordinarily violent. At times, he has tried to commit suicide even. And, you know, his parents are at a loss as to what to do with him.
Pernilla, how old is this youngster?
He's 11.
So an 11-year-old is trying to kill himself.
Yeah.
Goodness me.
Yeah, and you know, these are long-term care requirements in order to provide the supportive environment, the socialization. He refuses to go back to the beach because he, of course, associates that with terror and the loss of his friends, his cousins, and so forth. And you know, the program at the moment is working with him at a local family center, a community-based organization, where he is being slowly kind of brought in and integrated to re-socialize with other kids and to cope with his fear. But this boy needs to be have long-term follow-up, the kind that is being provided by Dr. Yasser and his team, who in fact are a partner of UNICEF's here in Gaza as well.
And Pernilla, some of the things you're describing, some might liken them to children having PTSD or post-traumatic stress syndrome. But online, there's a little hitch to, this is Daisy, and she says for children here in Gaza and many places around the world, the challenge is that they are never actually post-trauma because the hell continues. Diana here continues on that note, and she says these children can't recover when they have been and continue to be exposed to the same type of trauma throughout their lives. So Arwa, can you take us through what that cycle must be like, and then the effects of what it does to children and trying to live their everyday lives?
Yeah, while Pamela was speaking, I was thinking of my niece and nephew. They are so close to me, and I remember very well how during last winter they lived very hard moments during the winter storms that hit Gaza, and especially when they're used to hear the thunders. They were so scared. They started to cry because they thought it was bombing. And until now, after a year on from the war, until now, they can't stay in a room alone. They can't watch news with their parents on the TV. And their level at the school really is not the same like before the war. I think also of the children who are displaced, who are living in either damaged houses like Malak or even in caravans. There are tens of families who are still living in caravans in the southern part of Gaza Strip. These children, they wake up every morning, they open their eyes, they find themselves living in these very poor conditions, and at the same time, just on the other side, they see the rubble of their house, they see the rubble of their rooms, of their memories, of their toys, and there is no way for these children to recover from this trauma unless they are put in a normal situation, in a normal conditions, and of course with a long-term support to them.
Mm-hmm. Can I jump in there?
Yeah, please go ahead, Pernilla.
Yeah, I mean, look at the house where the kids that is playing right now on the program. There's 60 children living in that bombed out house that doesn't have any walls, any doors, windows. 60 children. It's apparent that their day-to-day life is a constant reminder of what they survived. And in fact, that family even has a bullet in one of the walls that killed one of the aunts from the 2009 war. So it's a cycle of violence. Even when kids go to school, they're reminded of the blockade, the limitations on their education and their achievement potentials. Many of these kids can't even concentrate on their studies and are falling behind. So it's really difficult for them to recover, even with ongoing counseling. It requires a lot of additional support just to access basic services.
Farah, are you walking around Gaza right now feeling totally traumatized and without hope? Or is there something in you, something in your family that is keeping you going? Because I know you graduated just recently. Congratulations on that. How do you negotiate knowing that you've lived through 3 wars and then getting up and doing everyday life, Farah?
Well, it was too hard to get back to our ordinary life because, you know, the last war was the hardest one. I have lived through the 3 wars in Gaza, and in the first two wars, all civilians were sure that they are safe and they won't get targeted because they are innocent. But in the last war, it was against civilians, so all civilians were afraid of getting...
But today, what makes you get up every day and go and study, go out and play with your friends, chat to your friends, look after your little sister? What makes you do that? Where do you get that energy from, that impetus?
Well, I believe that Palestinians were born to resist, and I believe that we have to go on with our life, because if we don't, we will stay feeling unsafe, feeling afraid, feeling sad, and this is not the meaning of life. We should go on and feel happy and try to deal with everything and try to make Gaza a better place.
Dr. Yasser, there's a question that's come in, and I'm going to direct this to you. This is from Milandra, and she says, what support is available for mental health, especially regarding children? Supporting physical needs is a challenge in itself, and mental health care even more so. So what's available to children who might need to talk and who might need drugs, psychiatric drugs? What options do they have?
I would like to say that our main problem currently at the moment in Gaza Strip is that the environment in Gaza doesn't allow, doesn't foster healing processes when it comes to mental health or psychological impact of the last war on children. So if a child is, parents here, pardon me?
Okay, I'm just going to get you to bear with us because it is not easy communicating with our guests who are all in Gaza right now. So there'll be some times when you hear Dr. Yasser, sometimes when you don't. But those times is when Pernilla will jump right in. Pernilla, go ahead. What do you have more to add?
Our information is that there's still we've been able to reach 85,000 kids across Gaza. It's a massive problem, but there's 300,000 that actually need support.
Right.
And given the limitations in terms of just the availability of services, in spite of wonderful organizations who are on the ground, first responders who are doing incredible work, it's the needs are greater than one can achieve at the rate we would like to. Of course, we're still going to try, and we are doing it. But we would love to be able to help all of those kids simultaneously.
I want to show you something here. This is from The Guardian. Gaza, how it looks 1 year after the conflict, then and now. I'm going to scoot down. So the first picture you see is a year ago. I'm going to click on it, and then you'll see how it is today. I'm going to do this one more time. I don't need to repeatedly do it because I think you're going to get the idea. 1 year ago, and this is today. There's not an awful lot of difference, not an awful lot of rebuilding. Actually, just rebuilding Gaza will help, I know, with some of the kids' trauma. If they don't have to live in a bombed-out house, that's going to be really helpful. Where is the construction help coming from? Where is the money that people promised a year ago?
By the end of the war, everyone was expecting that because of the high scale of destruction and the acute shortages of the basic services, there will be a quick response to rebuild Gaza, or at least rebuild the essential services in Gaza. Unfortunately, the blockade continued. The restrictions on the essential construction materials that were needed to rebuild hospitals, houses, clinics, and schools were still continued. The amount of construction materials that have been entering Gaza since the end of the war indicates that if the situation continues the same, the children who experience this war might become parents or even grandparents when the reconstruction process is completed. And I think no one should accept to leave these children and young people behind, to leave them living this misery, and to leave them going to damaged schools and to walk in streets where infrastructure is broken. So the future of these children is not bright, and it's bleak unless people like the international community and the whole world look at the Gaza people and the Gaza children and look at their rights and make all efforts to guarantee these rights.
You mentioned that broken infrastructure. Oreina on Twitter says the same thing. Living among the rubble, the abandonment, and the isolation makes it difficult for Gazans to function, and it has a direct effect on mental health. But Farah, I want to direct this next one to you. This is a tweet for you. This is by One Lane Only, who says, Farah, I had to check every night that you were still tweeting last year. Alhamdulillah, praise to God, you survived. You are an inspiration. But that leads to this question from Striving, who says, what is your definition of a happy future?
A happy future for me would be a freedom. I wish I can experience freedom for the first time. I wish I can be able to travel, to order things from Amazon, for example. be sure that I won't live through other wars. I won't die in a war. I will live like all teenagers in the world and be happy in my life and forget about wars.
Dr. Yasser, I'm looking at a picture back here, and this is from an Al Jazeera magazine piece, which is Gaza, Home in Ruins. And the children, they look like children anywhere in the world. They're playing, they're chatting to each other, they're teasing each other. How successful are you being in helping kids get back to something that is more everyday life, what children elsewhere around the world would enjoy, that quality of life? How are you doing on that?
It's pretty difficult, given the as what you saw in the picture, the very difficult environment around the children. But what we try to do is to foster natural healing processes through finding means, for the children, finding spaces, finding ideas about the future, opening windows, bright windows to the future. We try to engage their parents as much as possible. We try to talk to the children. We try to use some of the techniques used with the children, like play therapy. Like we encourage them to draw, to tell the story, to tell the stories. We encourage them to speak about fears. We encourage them to reprocess the trauma that they were subjected to. And we encourage them and their parents to think positively about the future. Now, of course, it's not an easy task, given the circumstances that most of those children live in still destroyed or partially destroyed houses. They go to schools where they lost some of their colleagues, some of their friends. But nevertheless, I think the whole nation, and I mean the whole Gazan people, we think about our children are the best investment. That's the only thing we own. That's the only thing we have. And we try our best to help them. It's not easy, but we have too many successful stories about children who have managed to go on.
Tell us a story. Tell us a successful story in the last few minutes of this show, because this, I'm not going to lie, this is not a great situation for children in Gaza. It's depressing. It's a terrible situation. But tell us a story that gives people hope that what you're doing, what Awa is doing, what Pernilla is doing, what youngsters like Farah is doing, is helping to at least rebuild the mental health for Gaza. One story just to wrap up with.
Well, I'm not sure that this is going to be a happy story, but it has a good ending.
Good.
We were sending our crisis intervention teams to one of the areas east of Khan Yunis, and interestingly, one of the girls started to run into the specialist, into the mental health professionals who was visiting there. She jumped into her lap and she said, "Well, I am just waiting for you. I was expecting you to show up at any moment." Now, this girl, her house was attacked during the 2009 war. And when our team visited her, they gave her a small doll, baby doll. And what happened is that during the 2014 attacks, the house was fully demolished. And they were all alive. They were displaced. And when they returned to the house, they were trying to find something in the debris of that house. And that girl was extremely happy when she found some pieces of that little baby toy, the doll that was given to her in the year 2009 by our professionals.
Right.
And when she saw our specialist, she started to happily accept that this professional is again getting back to her. And that girl was having some problems. She was having nightmares, and she was having extreme fears of staying in the city, in the place.
Yeah.
But she was, for one more time, treated in our community.
And how do you do now, Dr. Yasser? Because we're right at the end of the show. Is that the good ending?
She is now doing well. She went back to the school. She is doing great, and she is improving. But unfortunately, she is still displaced. She's not back to her home.
All right. A little tinge of hope there from Dr. Yasser's story, but we also have to be very pragmatic. Malika, what do you have for us?
Another tinge of hope on the future. This is Ayman. His 12-year-old brother wants to grow up, be a journalist to document violations, and his sister wants to become an engineer to reconstruct the refugee properties.
Thank you for our online community. Pernilla, Dr. Yasser, Awa and Farah. We are taking you to the post show at stream.aljazeera.com, and we'll pick up the conversation there. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hello again, this is the Post Show. We're talking about the mental health of Gaza's children. We're going to get right back to that conversation. Do you know what I was wondering as you were talking, Pernilla, Dr. Yasser, Awa? These are communities, this is a community you have to work with, and their stories are really tough stories and tough situation. I mean, Pernilla and Dr. Yasser, a little 11-year-old that wants to kill himself. How do you go into work and deal with that kind of emotional load? Dr. Yasser, how do you go to work?
Well, actually, it was really challenging for the last few years, and it got really more challenging after the 2014 offensive. You know, for 51 days, everyone in Gaza Strip, including us, including professionals, were subjected to multiple traumatizing events. But what keeps us really working is that we see the improvement on the children, we saw improvement on the people, and we think that this is our right path, that we need to help as many people as possible in Gaza Strip and to try our best to alleviate the pain and suffering of the people affected by the last war. I need to say that we have a very strong connection and a very strong network among our professionals in the Gaza Community Mental Health Program and with the people, professionals, not only in Gaza, but also around the world, who keep us, you know, supporting us and giving courage every now and then.
Pernilla, for you, how do you keep that face on when you're going and you're working with youngsters, you're working with families, and their stories are tragic, and there are thousands of tragic stories?
It's a very humbling experience, actually, and what keeps me going is seeing results in the difference that we're making in children's lives and their families. I mean, when you speak to a girl like Malak, who is shown on the video clip, and she says to you that her dream is to become an engineer because she wants to rebuild not only her family's house, but also the houses of her neighbors that have been destroyed, and she wants to help people and make them feel safe. I mean, that's just, you know, striking with all that she's survived. And then you have Saja, who last week in the Tawjihi, the national kind of high school results, got 99.6%, and she's from Rafah, and that's across all of Palestine. I mean, these are incredible. There's incredible talent and resilience and perseverance here, and it really just needs more fostering and to be unleashed. And really, Gazan children could do anything.
Farah, there's a question here I want to direct to you. This is from El Khater, who says, what do you want to be when you grow up? I know Femi asked you earlier about graduating, but El Khater also wants to know, do you consider escaping?
Now I'm done with the school and I want to become a lawyer because I want to show the world what exactly Israel has done for us, and I want to become a guitarist.
A guitarist? What is your favorite song to play?
My favorite song is Style for Taylor Swift.
Very nice. I'm looking at your picture of from your graduation. You graduated from a Catholic school in the Gaza Strip here. And how many days ago was that? Was that just a few days ago? When was that? When did that happen?
This was in the 4th of May.
Okay. All right. Very good. Excellent. I'm still trying to get a little sense of what you do all day. What have you been doing in your summer, Farah?
This summer?
Yeah. What have you been doing? What have you been up to? I know you're learning to play the guitar, so there's that. Did you practice today?
Actually, the last summer I wanted to learn guitar, but the war stopped me from learning it.
Right.
So I started learning it this summer, and I have taken just 4 lessons until now.
Aha. Okay. Yeah. Go on. Tell us. What can you play with 4 lessons?
Now I can play Happy Birthday song.
Very nice. All right. So, Awa, we were talking a little bit earlier on about how you go to work and work with tragic stories every single day. There can't possibly be an air of tragedy everywhere. It's like, how is that even possible? You wouldn't be able to live through that. What's the atmosphere like?
Do you know, I continue asking myself this question, and I'm trying to find the answer. But I think The answer is if these children are survive the war and they are able to go back to their schools and to continue their life, how can I afford stopping working for them and for other people? I think this is the source of strength I have. I've met so many children and so many young people who actually they have been displaced, they lost members of their families, they lost their houses, but they continue to give me strength. Like I get my strength from them. And this is the power of the Gaza spirit. I remember very well a 9-year-old girl who is like a member of a choir. She has a very beautiful voice. Her house was bombed in beach camp during the last war, and she was seriously injured in the head, but she survived. Fortunately, she survived, and she was treated, and now she's back to be part of the choir. Unfortunately, she was supposed to travel to join her peers in other choirs in other countries, but she was not able to do it. So she has done the concert via video conference with her peers in the West Bank, Lebanon, and Syria.
Amazing.
And this is the part, like the kind of stories that's giving me the strength to continue doing my job in Gaza.
Well, seeing all of our guests here, we've gotten messages of support from around the world. I wanted to share a few. This is Widad, who says, "It's so good to see you all on TV. Strength to you from South Africa." A tweet from Pakistan that says, "Power and strength to the children of Gaza from Pakistan." And this next one is about a vigil for Gaza, for the people there in London, that's going to take place soon. So Dr. Yasser, when you see these messages of support, what do they mean? Do they mean anything at all?
Yes, of course. Yes, definitely. You know, there are different solidarity messages that come from around the world, you know, that show us that no matter what happens to Gaza, we should keep going, we should keep living, and keeps our spirits high, actually, when it comes to dealing with the so difficult cases that we have in Gaza. And when you hear so many people that encouraging the good work you do, then you feel your spirits up, and you feel that you are doing really well. And as Pernilla said, when you find a successful story, when you help people here, and you feel that you have done a good job, you know, this is one of the very amazing things that you feel about being here and doing it here. Something that you would not hear or you would not feel if you were out and not staying in Gaza. It's ironic, you know, but staying here also has a very good side of the story.
So
it does.
So guess I wrote one word down here at the bottom of my notes, and it had a question mark, and my one word was hope, question mark. I'm just intrigued. Farah, do you want to tell us what's your response to my question? Do you have hope? Farah.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So Farah, we've lost Farah. You can follow her on Twitter to find out whether she does have that hope. Awa, for you, hope. Do you have it?
Like Farah is an example of hope.
Yeah.
Like after the 3 wars she has experienced, and she still wants to learn guitar. I think this is a very good example of the hope of the people of Gaza.
Right.
For me, also hope is there, and it's about dreaming about the day where the Gaza children and the Gaza young people will have a normal life. They will be able to move, to travel, to see how the world looks like outside of Gaza. Yeah, hope is in many examples that you can see every day in this place.
Pernilla.
I definitely have hope, but it's going to require a lot of more galvanized and concerted action from around the world in order to reassure the youth and the children of Gaza that their hope is and their dreams are attainable.
Dr. Yasser?
Without hope, we wouldn't be all here. I think that hope is essential. It's all in Gaza's children, and sometimes we need to seed it, and we need to make the environment caring, and that's what we need, nothing more, nothing less. But hope is there, hope is here, hope is in Gaza, it's among our children, and we hope that it will continue to be.
I hear it in all of your responses during this entire show. Malika, where do you want to leave us?
Oh, well, with the hopes of someone on Twitter, this is Skepe, who says, today's episode must be shown at the UN headquarters. Probably world leaders might save lives.
Pernilla, Dr. Yasser, Awa, Farah, thank you very much for being part of this conversation. It was a really hard conversation, but we really appreciate your insight, your knowledge from inside Gaza. Thank you so much. I will join you, Malika will join you on Monday when we're going to be talking about Native American young people and their concerns, but that's for another AJ stream. See you soon.